Hola, me llamo Andrey Sitnik. Yo hablo español y puedes preguntarme en español, pero no hablo bastante para hacer toda la charla en español. Así que vamos a hablar inglés. Hi everyone. Today I will talk about privacy. I will talk how we as developers, especially web developers, should why we should care about the privacy and how we could care about privacy of our users. And at least in the United States, people could start to ask, privacy, why do we ask about it? Let's talk about artificial intelligence, some technical stuff. Privacy is politics. We should not care about it. And this is a good question. The relationship between politics and software industry. Who use open source here? On their way. At their work. And the funny part that open source is not free software. It's not something that is you can download free. Instead, it is a political idea that you as a user should have total control of your machine. That if you buy a machine, you install software there, you should control everything. You should understand how it works. And this is very political idea. Second thing, hacking. Hacking is also not only a criminal stuff. Hacking is also have a lot of politics idea behind it, and one of the most important one is to mistrust the authorities. But my favorite example here is cryptography. Every time when we go to the website, when we have HTTPS, S means secure, encryption, it means the people who created this protocol. Wait a second. Yeah. The people who created HTTPS, they believed the protocol that they're creating, it's not only a technology. They have a very interesting quote. The decision we make about the communication security today will determine the kind of society we will live tomorrow. So this is a very important idea that the software you're developing right now will change the society where your child will live. So software development was always about politics. It's only a young generation thinking only about money. My favorite, there is a very good example. There is a very nice movie called Hackers from 1993. And the pictures of the developers is so different compared to the current pictures. Even with a diversity between the teams. I prefer to be such guy, not modern Silicon Valley developer. Okay, why you should care about the politics and not only about the salary? First, you're creating the world where you will live tomorrow. And if you're creating some software to track, what workers do at the work, your company will use it against you later. Also, having some political ideas behind you creates some meanings inside you, because just working for money could make you empty inside. But there is a lot of revolution, there is a lot of political ideas, and there is no objective way to choose one over another. But I will try to explain why I care about the privacy. So, there is a lot of misconceptions about the privacy. For instance, there is a lot of people who think that privacy, the problem with privacy is only because, Google tried to show us a better advertisement. So, you should not care about the privacy, because if you will put everything online, Google will show you a better advertisement. Unfortunately, this is not how the reality works. The real problem of privacy is not a Google. It's not a Google Analytics and not advertisement. It's a data brokers. It's a company who are collecting data, buying data from many applications, from many different sources, then combining it together and selling this data to very shady clients. This is completely dark market. We're not talking about it a lot on our conference, because this is some shady market. There is a very good example. There is a company called Xmode. It's a data broker. They buy data from many applications, for instance, from Quran mobile application, from Muslim dating application, from Craigslist, it's a very popular social media app in the United States. And then they aggregate this data and sell it to the US military contractors. What could be more shady than selling the Muslims' data to US militaries? And this is how the current market of private data works. This is only one example. Okay, there is a company who sells data for data brokers, but my company doesn't sell the data to data brokers. Is some good? In reality, not, because there is not only a problem of selling the data, but also a leaking of data. If you put anything to database of your server, in some moment it will be publicly available, because like you will put a wrong password, etc. There is every year we have more and more data leaks when database is becoming open on like GitHub, etc. And if you put anything to your database, you should be ready, so this data will be available for everyone. There is a very crazy example. In Russia, there is a service called Yandex Food Delivery, and they leaked all data about all deliveries. And more important, like all this data, it contains phone number, so it's very easy to track you in this data, and your food delivery address. So if you was in some place and order a food, right now anyone could find it, because people create a whole map, like a simple map application, where you can put a phone number and get all food deliveries for between 2001 and 2022. Imagine if you visiting your grandma and she bring you a very nice empanadas, but you told her that like you're not hungry. But then she can go to the service and find that next you order a Chinese food, and so you lie to her. It could be like, very dangerous for you. Anyway, okay, next problem. Like, like food delivery, it's a sensitive data, but our application doesn't have any sensitive data. We only track an email, nothing more. Again, it's not how like privacy market works right now. The main problem right now is the big data, and you can combine multiple data sources and create a very like crazy decisions. For instance, imagine if you have a Quran application, and like this application will show you direction to the Mecca, so it needs location data. But that's all. It doesn't track your email, name, etc. Only location to show the direction. And in some moment, this data could be leaked. Then there is a social media application, Instagram, for instance. And it has your email, and it also has your location, because you make a photo with active data inside. But then we have some like government data breach, when we have email and your full real number, full real name. And then we can combine all this data and make a decision that this person is a Muslim. So even if you have only email or some simple data, it could be combined with the data from the other application, and it could be used to make a very crazy decisions. There is a very crazy example. How many people here use Google Analytics on their website? Like, for instance, on some of our applications, there is such. Google Analytics, it's not only an application which like track how many visitors do you have. The main problem is that Google Analytics, it uses a global user ID across all websites. So as a result, the service knows your full track across the whole internet. Right now, about 50% of the website has a Google Analytics. And Google Analytics could track it not only on these websites, but also if you are placing any links on the tracking website, Google Analytics will know that you're going to the next location because you click a link. And if you're going to another website, it could use referrer to create a picture of your path through the internet, even bigger than a website having Google Analytics. Okay, if you have nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear. Like, why you should care about the privacy? First answer, maybe you don't have nothing to hide, but there is a lot of people who have something to hide. For instance, there is a people in Saudi Arabia, and there was a case when an ex-Twitter employee sold all data of Saudi dissidents to the Saudi government. And as a result of this data, a girl was put to the jail, and old teacher was executed. If Twitter would not put this data to database, it was nothing to sell. Only because we have this data in database, only because some engineers construct the database and application in such a way, one person was killed. And it's not only Saudi Arabia cases, United States, it's also in Europe. In Netherlands, there is a company who creating a facial recognition software, and Russia uses software to track any street protests. If you're going to the street protest in Russia, police will not grab you on the streets on this protest. Instead, they will collect your face and will visit your home and few days later when nobody will help you. And it's not only, only against the people in Saudi Arabia and Russia. Like, there is a case when in Europe, when in Spain, the Spanish government forced ProtonMail and Apple to give the data, and using this data, they put a man to the jail because he helped with a peaceful protest in Catalonia. So all these problems with privacy is not something you know about advertisement. It's about human lives. And it happens everywhere, including in Europe. But even if you are not like fighting against government, if LLMs will know your private data, they could convince you to change your political view much easier. So it could be very dangerous for everyone. Okay, what we can do about it? Another topic. Like right now, internet is a shitty place. We have a lot of pop-ups. Every time when you go to any website, there is a lot of pop-ups. There are, like, who made the internet such shitty place full of pop-ups? Am I on the dev conference? Like, we made internet a shitty place full of GDPR pop-ups. So the first thing you can do to reduce privacy risks is to remove GDPR pop-up. Okay, a lot of people could ask me, but like we need it by law. Like this is bureaucrats in Europe, in Belgium, they force us to add these pop-ups on our websites. It's not what we want. And it's crazy part, because in GDPR law, there is no pop-up board. GDPR as a law doesn't tell anything about pop-ups. In reality, GDPR as a law say only a simple thing: don't track users. But a lot of developers think that it means that we need to punish users until they will agree to allow tracking. We don't need pop-up by law. We're adding pop-ups only as a punishment for users to force them to agree. It's technically a dark design pattern. When we use this pop-up in front of very important information, so people have no time to think and start to press random button just to go to the information they need. So I suggest you a much better way. Instead, don't use Google Analytics. For instance, if you need analytics, use GDPR-compatible analytics. As a result, you don't need pop-up. And you will need to ask user to share private data only in some relative information. For instance, in the sign-up form, you will have a checkbox only at that moment, not in pop-up when users are visiting a website. There is a lot of analytics who support GDPR without a pop-up. And these analytics are very capable. You can track page views, you can track sources, you can track events, you can track campaigns. You can not only, there is only two things you cannot track with these types of analytics. First, you cannot you cannot put a unique user ID. Because with unique user ID, you will be able to track the path through the website, and this is tracking. And second thing, you cannot do a remarketing. Who knows what remarketing is? Do you remember a thing when you try to buy, I don't know, shoes, and then you go into the different website and see a shoes advertisement? This is remarketing, and it's fucking shady. So it's okay that it's illegal with the GDPR-compatible analytics. There is a lot of tools to do this cookie-less tracking. Like I personally use Plausible, but like all of them is pretty nice, so I can recommend all of them. Okay, but what if your manager asking you to have a Google Analytics? I personally believe that we have irrational obsession of data collection. And there is a very simple question how to understand, is it a rational obsession or not? Ask managers, marketing managers, did they have some decision using a private data in last year? If not, they don't need this data. But the most important part, that if your website collecting user data, some of users will press no on pop-up. And it's about third of 2/3 of the people. And as a result, you will have full data only from people who pressing yes on pop-up. And this is like only part of your users, and it could bring you completely different statistics, completely different decisions in the end. So it's much better to trust only data coming from all users, rather than data coming only from users pressing yes, because it's not well distributed across the whole user base. So if your marketing manager says that we need Google Analytics, ask them, are they trust in the data? Because this is only a partial data. And GDPR is not only about Europe anymore. Right now, there is a similar law in California and many other countries. So very soon it will be like global system, and like there is no way, to show pop-up only for European users. We need to start to live in this world. And I believe that we as an industry could, we as a developers could change industry. How many people remember Internet Explorer here? How many people created websites for Internet Explorer? And it was a very old browser, and Microsoft did not update it for years. And it was a disaster to make a website for them. And what did we do as a community? We killed it. We created a conspiracy to force some managers to remove Internet Explorer for our requirements. And I believe that we can do the same with private data. Okay, second step, reduce number of data, reduce number of the companies who have access to the data. Remember these pop-ups when they say that they care about the privacy, and they show about a huge number of the companies having access to the data? This is what I'm talking about. Every time, a lot of services which you use have the same access to user data as you. For instance, if you use Google Fonts have a full access to the private data as your company. If you use some CDN for JavaScript, if you use Cloudflare, or if you use a different mail service, all these services have the same access to the private data. And if you want to protect your users, it's better to reduce number of the companies, because if you will use less services, it will be less probability of data leaks or selling users' data. How can you do it? First, don't use public CDN for JavaScript libraries. Don't use public CDN for fonts. It's also very bad for performance. Don't use Google Fonts. Put font into your website. Just download WOV2 file and just put it there. Then, try to prefer self-hosted tools. Even if you can start from the cloud version, but if the cloud version has an option of self-hosted, it will be much better for you. Because later, when you will be big, you can go to the self-hosted version. And second recommendation, try to combine CDN and cloud. If you put your website to AWS, don't use Cloudflare, because you will have two companies having a full access. Instead, use Amazon CDN, or for instance, go to the Cloudflare cloud hosting. There is multiple ways. Okay, step number 3. This step is advanced step. It's only for new project. It's impossible to convert existing application to the local first, but it's a very interesting idea. So, years ago, I'm too old, unfortunately, we keep all data locally on our machines, Winamp application. All music was locally in MP3 files. But then, iPhone was released. And we start to put everything to the cloud, because right now, any user have two machines, phone and a laptop. But there is a third way to avoid clouds. Let's continue keeping all data on our machines, but using a cloud only to synchronize this data. Let's put all music to my phone and to my laptop, and I will use cloud only to synchronize changes between them. This idea called local first, there is a whole manifesto of local first. I highly recommend to read it. It's very nice idea, and they explain it very well. But I will explain it as an example. How many people here use Notion? It's very popular, a nice tool. But the main problem with Notion is that they keep all your notes openly in their cloud, and they can read all your notes. And they use it to train artificial intelligence, etc. There is a different application called Obsidian. In Obsidian, all your notes is just a markdown files on your file system, on your machine. And then you can use any cloud. You can use their cloud for $5 per month, but also you can use GitHub or like Google Drive to synchronize these files across multiple devices. And this is a very good example of, the best local first application. Of course, like there is not only an Obsidian node local first application, there is a multiple of them. I personally use Nextcloud, but I very like their business model. But of course, like local first is spectrum. You should not be so local first. It's okay to be to find a best compromise for your business, of course. But how to make your software local first? I'm a web developer. I mostly use JavaScript, and I will explain it from the perspective of creating websites. But it will be the same for any kind of application. So if you're making a local first, you will have all data locally on the machine of users. As a result, you will need database with a very rich query language and good performance, because it will be about 50 megabytes to 100 megabytes of user data. And there is a very good solutions. There is a SQLite, and you can put it into the browser, into JavaScript by bus. But my favorite one, called PGLite, is a Postgres in WebAssembly, which you can run on the clients. Not only in the browser, but also in the browser. But also you can run it as a library for your Python application, etc. So right now we can have a very rich databases locally. Funny part, in browser, we need some storage to store the data. And there is a very nice API called Region Private File System, when browser will create a folder for your website where you can do whatever you want. For instance, put your database files. But funny part, there is a different way. It indexes the database to store the data of SQLite. But in Firefox, indexed database is SQLite files. So you will put SQLite inside another SQLite files. And it still will be much faster than using indexed database directly. So if you're making a website, don't use indexed database, it's just slow. Better to use SQLite. Second, on your website, you should not just read data from your database. Instead, you need a list of action. Every time in your application, when you change something, you don't go directly to database. No, instead, you create an action and put it to the log. You create an action which explains what you need to change. And then, database reads this log and apply changes to database from this log. And your application is reactively connected with this database. Why do we need log? Because in local first, not only user can change data. It also could be a cloud. It also could be a different browser tabs. So we have different people changing your data, different machines changing your data. And with this log, they will have on the same path to your database. So your architecture will be much cleaner and simpler. Third step, you need some way to automatically resolve conflicts. If you change document here and here, it will be a conflict. There is a very good technology called CRDT. It looks complex, but don't worry. To be honest, inside it's very simple technology, and there is a lot of libraries. I personally recommend YJS and Aftermerge for JavaScript. They implement CRDT in your application, and with CRDT, edit conflicts will be resolved automatically. And 4 steps. You need 2 different passwords. One password will open a cloud to synchronize this data, but second password will be used to encrypt all data. So the cloud will be not able to read this data. Okay, we use these 4 steps to create a local first application only because we believe in politics, in the idea to protect your users. But there is a funny things. Creating a good privacy first application made us better as a business. Why? First, right now, with local first, you need a very small backend server. As a result, as a business, you can spend less on the backend developers. Right now, we need, for instance, 5 front-end developers, 5 backend developers, and this is a lot of money. With local first, you can have 5 front-end developers and only 2 backend developers, and this will save money for your business. Second, benefits, very business benefits. You don't need a cloud for your prototype. You can create a business MVP and get investments before you have a cloud. Because it's local first, it's run locally, so you can test your application without cloud. And it's very good for business because it's much easier to start and you will have investments much earlier. Third, you don't need more money to scale. Right now, if your application becoming very popular, you need more money to increase your cloud because more users, more cloud. But with local first, you use a client's hardware to do your computation. And if you have more users, they will bring their own hardware. And as a result, you don't need a bigger server. And it will be much cheaper for you. You will not be scary of, success and scaling your servers. Like a lot of very popular softwares, like Linear, for instance, they have only one server to manage the whole Europe zone. Second, first benefits. You don't have any privacy problem because you don't have private data anymore. Everything is encrypted. Fifth, this is what a lot of developers told me. When they move to local first, they start to develop faster. Why? Because with local first, you need a special service for synchronization. And as a result, in your, for instance, React components, you don't have any more imperative way to work with the network. Instead, you have a service for synchronization and some declarative way. And as a result, your software becoming much simpler, and it's much easier to develop features. Another business feature, you will have zero latency. All data will be locally. As a result, it will be much faster to use your application. And faster application is very good business advantages for you. It's very easy for you to compete with your competitors. There is a very good example, Linears. It's like a task manager, Jira. How many people use Linear, by the way? We use Linear to-do application. I use in a few projects. It's a very good application, but funny part, like it's a task manager. There is a lot of task managers right now, and it's very hard to compete with them. But because they are local first, they have a very good performance. And as a result, they right now are a very good business because a lot of users prefer them because they are fast. So local first for them is a business advantage to compete with the competitors. There is another example, Pitch. It's a slides editing tool. They have about 2 million active users, so it's a pretty solid business. Or my favorite example, GoodNotes. They have about 25 million monthly users. So local first is not some crazy ideas. Right now, it's a production-ready ideas. Right now, there is a lot of frameworks to do local first. This is my framework, but I personally recommend you Replicache and Electric SQL. They are much better. And there is a very good guide of, there is a very good page when there is all links about creating local first application with all frameworks, etc. This is a very good starting point when you will think about your local first application. Okay, and last step, what we can do to protect users. It's again, very advanced step. So, when we think about privacy, we think only about the problem in the United States, privacy problem in the United States. But in reality, it's much more complex. Of course, thinking about different countries, it's not for any startup, it's only for the big companies. But if you're working in big companies, please think about it. So, there is a very different privacy risks. Not only government, not only data brokers, but also, family members, which can, when you're asleep, they can unlock your phone and read your messages. Or, for instance, there could be a local community who, try to control you try to check your ethical standards. And this, again, this is privacy problem too. But because right now, all our media is controlled by the United States, we think only about United States problem. And this is a problem. The main problem here is that if I'm making application for one market, I should do one architecture. If I'm making to another market, to another risk, I should do a completely different architecture. For instance, if I'm making a news reader, in the United States, people don't trust clouds, so they prefer this application to be local first. So my RSS reader, news application will go directly to the media and download data from the media. But if I'm making a news application for Russia, people prefer to use cloud because they don't trust their internet provider. And if I will use a local first application, internet provider will see that this uses going to Navalny website and reading the Navalny news. So they prefer to use American cloud service because they trust them more. So like different risks mean that we need to have a different way to work, and maybe we'll need some sort of checkbox, etc. It depends on your application. There is a very interesting example. In Russia, there is such, like in Russia and Belarus, there is such thing like local police could check your phone on the street. You are walking on the street, there is a local police, and they're like, can you please unlock your phone? We will go to your Telegram and see what channels are reading. And you have two options. First, you can unlock it. They will see Navalny channel, and you go to jail. Or you can try to say, I have rights, and they will break your legs. Both options not very good. This is why Belarusian cyber partisans, they created fork of Telegram. In this fork, you can create multiple different pins. And one pin will unlock your Telegram in normal way, but another pin will look completely the same, but it will remove all dangerous channel from your Telegram and unlock the phone after. So you can put a different one and save your freedom. And nobody really think about this problem in the United States company in Silicon Valley because they don't care. Okay, summary. First, find your principles. Don't work only for money because it will be much funny to live. Second, remove GDPR pop-up from your website by going to the cookie-less analytics. Then, reduce number of services having access to the private data. Think about the local first for the next project, and think about other privacy risks in other countries. And the most important quote from the today talks, the decision we make about the privacy in our application today will determine the kind of society we will live tomorrow. Please remember it. That's all. This is a slide. This is my social media. Questions?